I think creating the web is all about innovating and sharing what you learn.
I think it's an amazing time to be involved in the web. We can't imagine today what tomorrow holds.
Creating for the web is about pushing the boundaries.
Creating the web is all about the possibilities.
I think it's a really amazing time to be a developer, a designer on the web. You don't have to be a WebKit engineer or someone on the standards committees to move the web forward. If you're creating amazing experiences that are pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
One of the things that I think is so great about the web right now is that so many different kinds of designers and developers and companies are involved in creating it and moving it forward. Everyone from Adobe to the browser vendors. It's a really great time because there are so many different stakeholders. Adobe has been doing a lot to move the web forward. As a creative company, we always want to have richer platforms for our customers. And with HTML5 and CSS3, we're kind of at a point where the web is a really great place for creatives to deploy rich content and sort of cinematic experiences. Where would you say the modern web is today in terms of those graphical capabilities?
I would say it's decent and getting better quickly. We have things like CSS 3D, which we took advantage of a lot in Atari Arcade. I know that me and my team are really looking forward to CSS filters. Yeah. They can't get here fast enough. And then obviously, we do a lot of work using Canvas to, drive things like games and like really rich stuff that kind of goes beyond what the DOM was designed to do.
What do you guys think about that experience right now in terms of so many of these features get added to a single browser? We have the prefixing issue where you have WebKit prefixes, Mozilla prefixes. How does that affect your day-to-day development, Drew?
Most of the time when you're building, you are aiming at the top end of browsers, the more modern browsers. But a lot of the clients that we work with, they're still looking at browsers like IE6 even. So, a lot of the time you can just kind of say, the things you're aiming for aren't going to work. As long as you come up with a decent backup, then you can keep clients happy.
I think some of the things that I've certainly seen in some of the Adobe, the latest tools, they focus on very much on the kind of the sort of ease of use and making things more productive.
How important would you say the rich graphical capabilities are to enterprise applications, to consumer applications?
I can imagine that a medical equipment provider will want some very, very rich, high-tech graphics, then obviously, and if they're using the web for some of their applications or their products, then yes, I think it'd be really important. I still think it's a long way behind than say for a consumer audience, which is they're more sophisticated in terms of what you expect, and the expectations are higher.
Yeah.
I think that means that their expectations actually go up because they are no longer willing to make compromises to accommodate the technology, right? And so they look at how a magazine is laid out and they say, well, why can't my web pages be that way? And they look at the interfaces on games and on experiences like that, and they say, well, why can't similar experiences on the web be the same? And workers are consumers, and so they bring that into the enterprise and they start making demands for how their intranets work.
If they're using a mobile device, a lot of them just want the data they want, the information they want as quickly as possible. They don't necessarily want the extra richness.
Do you think that given a choice between an application which just has maybe the raw data versus an application that has the data but that's also richer experience, and richer can just be a better design?
Yeah.
I think users are going to choose a richer experience because it's more pleasurable to use, it's more pleasurable just to look at. All of a sudden there's new stuff, and then people who really love this stuff, and they start pushing on the edges, right? And that's creating new experiences. It gets people excited. We're doing this Create the Web tour, and that's why we call it actually Create the Web, was because it's really these experiences that people create on the edge that push it, push the browser vendors in to go in certain directions, that push the expectations to go in those directions. There are a lot of people in the Flash community that are starting to do more motion graphics in the browser. And these are people that work with a pretty well-defined technology for a long time. Let me give you my experience. So I was, done web development a long time, done a lot of Flash development. And it's intimidating coming into this space because it's not just like one level, like one domain of knowledge.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, okay, it's this thing, and then I'll multiply it by 5. It's like one small domain, then multiply it by 5, and then it's it can be pretty harsh community at times. Like if you're it can be pretty intimidating, I guess I should say.
event handling, and you can be working with events, you can be working with handlers, you can be working with one of many different frameworks that'll handle it for you. And I think that in order to be successful, you have to pick a domain and say this is do some general research, kind of pick some things that make sense to you and dig deep in those, and then start expanding out broadly. Flash developers have a lot of advantages coming into this space because they know how to build rich interactive content, they know how to work with transitions, they know how to work with stateless applications, and whereas traditional web developers, they know the language and they have a decent grasp of the APIs.
So people like Brandon Hall, Seb Dalal, who's actually
Yeah.
from Brighton, Grant. I mean, a lot of the early people doing this, especially very expressive, almost generative art type experiences. A lot of Flash people coming from that. And now for something like Edge, it's spitting out JavaScript code that's doing stuff, which is great. Everyone can see that code. Everyone can see everything that's going on in there.
How critical is open source to what you guys do when it comes to building things for the web?
I think it would be almost impossible to build big projects on the web without open source. I think people are pretty eager to get involved and make the things that they use better.
How big a role do you think something like GitHub has played in helping push that forward? Because that's a service that makes it very easy to fork a project and then to do pull requests.
Massive.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it makes it manageable. It's like a single process that people can learn once and then apply across multiple projects. It's huge.
It was kind of interesting though, seeing the reaction internally at Adobe to how successful Brackets was. It was really exciting to see all the excitement around that. And I think a lot of it was because it's built on top of web technologies, but a lot of it was also because it was something that everyone uses every day. Everyone uses the editor, and now it's not like lower level native languages. And then it was kind of interesting though, seeing the reaction internally at Adobe to how successful Brackets was as an open source project, and other projects want to start explore that avenue and explore that path. It was actually really exciting watching that.